Hey, hello everyone. Good morning, good evening, depending on which part of the world you are. Welcome to this 68th edition of ClariTea Chat. Growth comes with the power of focus, consistency, and dedication. Today we have with us a leader who was a state-level cricketer, joined a private sector job at a fraction of the salary, but for loads of learning, and became a technology transformer without any engineering or MBA degree. Please welcome Haresh Calcuttawala to ClariTea Chat. Welcome, Haresh bhai.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So Haresh is an effort capitalist. I'll definitely pick his brains on what is effort capitalist. Innovator, thought leader, and co-founder of Tragix, which is a COVID-born startup fulfilling the need of an integrated end-to-end platform for importers and exporters, and winning accolades for participating in Digital India. So, quick introduction. Haresh bhai comes from a small village, Ujna, near Surat, moving over to Mumbai and becoming a global citizen. He is a commerce and law alumnus from South Gujarat University. He worked in warehouse operations and then led technology transformation from all sides as part of an enterprise team, a product partner, SAP, and on the consulting side with EY. He is now a startup founder as well as a transformation advisor to large corporates. We'll get to hear it in detail how it was shaped and what styles, philosophies, principles he used. So a quick summary of our chat with Harish Bhai is we cover strength in processes. The road to IT goes through processes, and something which is close to my heart as well. We'll talk about Project Harmony, the KPIs, the insider stories, the success principles used in leading the mother of all ERP implementations, 86 companies and whatnot will Harish Bhai will tell you. Rescuing large ERP programs with belief in math and planning. Very interesting stories there. And then on pioneering design thinking and innovation. So his philosophy is just follow the math and planning, which he converts to the simple "jo lagna hai, wo lagna hai." What it takes, it will take. Okay. So we'll hear very interesting case studies there on that. And chat with a rapid fire round to bring out some personal sides of Harish Bhai and then a reverse question to me. So Harish Bhai, before we start talking of serious things, let's get some energy going up. So you left a government job for a private job at 1/3 of the salary. Just share with us, why you did it and what is the story behind it.
So, good evening, friends. Good morning, good evening, wherever, which part of the world you are in. And thanks, Jagdish, for getting me here. It's an interesting story. So, when I got passed out, I had an option to join a professor job with a salary of almost like 5,500. And against that, I got an option to join Reliance at a kind of 1600 bucks. Out of that, 600 will get deducted for my transportation. So logically, I'll only get 1000 bucks. But then the impression what I got of, like, large, giant, big plants, lot of technology you can see from outside. So that was really inspiring me to kind of not get into professor job and to pick it up with my first job at Reliance. So that's the story. And it was more of an instinct call, so I just follow my gut feel.
Yeah, no, but I think there's a big lesson here that I come across people who are looking at the financial aspects and the financial constructs of their new roles much more closely than the learning aspects of it. And here you are, you know and that's a wide difference, 5,500 versus 1,000 rupees. And just like to just focusing on the learning and exposure that it gives you, a big lesson for everyone out there, on how Harish Bhai thinks. Okay. So, Harish Bhai, we will wait a little bit before we pick your brains. But for now, I'm starting to see some comments coming in from people here. So, here we have our audience, which have CXOs, founders, IT managers, and seasoned technology industry leaders. All of us know that technology is necessary, but not sufficient to drive business performance. People like you on ClariTea Chat have built that bridge between necessary and sufficient with their art of managing technologies. So, thank you all for joining us for about a year and 3 months now, and encouraging us with your interactions and questions. And I know a lot of you watched this over the weekend, not really live. So, I must thank all of you as well. So, let us see who all we have here. May I request our audience to share their name and where they are joining from in the comment box of LinkedIn and YouTube. And let us see who we have here already. So we have Sumit here, welcoming everyone. Thanks, Sumit, for being part of this journey right since the beginning. And we have Prashant. Thanks, Prashant, for joining us from Dubai. We have Snehanshu Jena, another regular audience of ours. He's joining us from Bangalore. Thanks, Snehanshu. And we have another of our regular audience from Oman, Dattatray Phatnaik. Thank you, Dattatray. And all the others, please keep your names and where you're joining from coming. It's good to see a global audience, sitting in my bedroom here. So let's get going. Harish bhai, let's start with, the most formative years of your childhood. Give us a quick recap of your childhood up to your first job. What was it like growing up?
So let me share, my inspiration to be a cricketer. Used to kind of I used to ride 25 kilometers by bicycle just to attend a net practice session, right? And then so I don't come from so rich background. So to fulfill my needs and my ambition, I started doing a job at the age of 16 or 17 with 600 bucks. Okay, and then early part of my career, okay, which I won't say it's a career, but I was just in the college. But then I had an experience of running a sugarcane juice lorry. I had an experience of actually running a flour mill. Okay, I have an experience of almost, driving an auto rickshaw. So I got an all kind of experience before I just passed out from my college. So that's the kind of struggle I had in my initial days.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And I think really inspirational that you love cricket so much that you were riding a bicycle 25 kilometers every day for net practice. And that's crazy. I mean, I don't think you were of the age of driving auto rickshaw, but you drove it still.
Yeah, yeah. No, so that time 18 years was good enough, and then there was no much of policing that point in time. I'm talking
Right.
about 87, 88, and those days, right?
No, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah, about your education and then your first job.
Yeah, yeah. So I see my inspiration of like playing cricket ensured me that I study, and then I wanted to take something which gives me more time to play and also to study. So I did commerce, got into Reliance. Okay, again it's a very interesting story. So I actually got an offer from a call letter, not an offer from Reliance, and then at that point in time, what happened? My watchman missed out to hand over that letter to me, and then after interview were over, I just got an later, and in those days, I mean, calling them was really difficult. Still I tried, and then I reached 2 days late after actually the interview date. And then I still remember an HR, that Pandinam HR had telling me that interviews are done and candidates are selected. I said I still want to appear, and then they still took my interview, though it was 14-16 hour wait, but I got selected. So that
Oh,
was
wow.
my first job. And thanks to that HR person, I mean, Manish Gupta is now a big shot, but he gave me an opportunity.
Okay, okay, okay. Um, yeah. So then let's move on to the rest of your career. Just give us a a kind of oversight of which all how did your career move from there. So what were you doing in the first job? What was the real responsibilities there? And then how it panned out, because that's a very very interesting story.
Yeah. So actually, I joined Reliance in an P&A department. That point in time is to call personal and administration. My first job is to find out houses for the employees joining. Okay. And that point in time, we were asked to find out like 2,000 to 4,000 houses, because that is the kind of organization Reliance was building in Hazira. Surat being small town in those days, it was really scary numbers. But anyway, uh, and then there were a lot of agreements, documents. We used to deal with brokers, vendors, house owners. And then what I thought was I saw first computer first time in that point in time where we can do something. So I said, let's try building something. So I learned Fox Pro and started putting all these housing related document, and first built an HRA system so we can process a payroll wherein we can say that HRA is 50% because I'm not giving him the entitled house, or whether I'm giving him something which is more than entitlement, and a lot of complications, right? But then that was my first learning, and then I moved from there to commercial department after some point in time. Again, same story. Reliance was coming up with large plants in Hazira, and then we were setting up warehouses, large big size technologies coming in, and then we wanted to handle a volume of almost like 2-3 thousand truck moving in 24 hours in those days, and there was a definite need of something which can help us to turn around truck faster, right? So the TAT was very important. Now we use this terminology. Those time we used to say cycle time of a truck, and that's where we started working, building something in Ingress and Fox Pro. And in with Fox Pro also, we and Ingress also, we have handled that kind of volume. I'm talking about like 95, 96. So that's the journey we picked in from Reliance.
Okay, okay,
And then
yeah.
of course that was a big journey in Reliance, and there are a lot of acquisition and a lot of things we do over a period of time. So it's a big journey. I spent almost like more than a decade with them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, but and then you transition to SAP.
Yeah, yeah. So I always say Reliance is a B school of industry, right? So if you go to any B school, okay, you may call it IIM or whatever you name it. For me, the B school was Reliance, okay, and that's where I did lot of IAS, lot of things. Okay, so we and then that IS journey. So whether it is IS utility or telco, or whether IS oil, or whether IS retail, okay, all these IS formula we learned there. And that was something which was more exciting towards SAP. Of course, we were an early implementation, we did an early implementation of SAP. And that's where my career shifted from starting something towards SAP. So I moved to initially between that I moved to actually Rockwell, the company called Connection, part of Rockwell. So I moved to US and then within a year I came back and joined SAP.
Okay, okay, okay. Yeah. So, Haresh bhai, I think you did many big things in SAP and then moved to EY and then to your own thing. So we did talk about it a little bit. So let's move to the most exciting, discussion of today, which is being a program leader for Project Harmony.
Yeah.
So tell us about the entire case study, the story of it, like how you got into it, and I know what did you find there, and I think you had some really tough discussions, and yeah, tell us all about it. Yeah,
So I think my friends at M&M, Mahindra and Mahindra, when I say M&M, so they will also be excited, like because it will be a recap of what we all did together, right? And of course, SAP folks. It was I still remember a date, like 9th August 2009, and I was somewhere doing a project in HCL, and I was told that from this date I have to join this project within 2 days, and we did a kickoff, and we saw the scope, okay, and it was like huge scope. We have to consolidate some six ERP systems into one. We will have to kind of like do transformations in certain areas, and then uh, a lot of things, right? And then the scope document said like this project will be implemented in 8 months, and we got a team of some like 30-40 guys, and the first thing I realized was like this is a project, a mammoth project which need huge team. And immediately day one, I mean, we had a tough negotiations. Of course, my M&M colleagues and SAP, and we all together had a very hard time. First 48 hours was like a patient in ICU kind of a situation, where I was very sure that this cannot be done without ABC thing, which is like the kind of people and team needed, the kind of resource infrastructure needed. Otherwise, we are not going to kind of like from the day one survive on this project. Like, so better to take a call on day one rather than postpone the same thing for tomorrow. So that's how the project started actually. And then there was like we always have a habit of challenging. So they got somebody to audit from Germany, and he said like this project cannot be done in less than 3 years. And he gave all these things in writing both to M&M and SAP internally. It was an SAP guy coming from global, and we said now we will do it in 8 months, but these are the things which I personally need as a project manager, and collectively we all agreed, okay, that yes, this is what we need. So that is how that project started. And today also we get like literally scared about hearing those stories, like how we manage.
yeah. So just curious, like you were asked to start with 35 consultants. How many did you end up with?
Yeah. So interesting story. So I think we started with we said we will get 35 guys, okay, and then somewhere we ended almost like 100 from SAP, almost like some 200 plus from Bristol Cone, and so total 600 projects we were consultants we were having on the project. And equally and or more, you can say, like at some point in time some 700 to 800 folks from the entire M&M group. So the project team itself, if you consider all locations and size, we were something like 13 to 1400 people working on the project. So
Yeah. So actually,
that's the scale. I mean very hard to see.
no, absolutely. And I think that logically, like pushes us uh, into the next question that I have for you, is rescuing ERP programs. Here you had a situation where the program, I mean, the program was not really in ICU, it was in NICU, right? It's a neo-
Yeah, yeah,
and the program hadn't started yet, and it went into ICU. And
yeah,
the what your math told you is that you require resources which were a multiple of what you were being given. So I think when I was talking to you earlier, there was a lot of focus on math and planning. What you said,
yeah,
PLM.
yeah. So I mean, see, I mean, any project, okay. So Project Harmony is gave me a biggest learning was we have to do our maths right, okay, and we have to ask for it. I mean, see, if you don't put your maths right and then you just say like, okay, we'll see later on, that doesn't work. To according to me, like, that planning and mathematics day one has to be right, okay. Otherwise, you are just playing around with hopes. So, and then you will ultimately what will happen? See, if you play around with hopes, what will happen? Whatever is needed, इसलिए I keep saying जो लगता है वो लगना है मतलब whatever like you can't just fool around yourself. Whatever is required. That's the thing.
No, absolutely. And I think, the most important part of executing a
Mm,
project is the planning. From my own experience also, I remember, the first ever IT project I got involved in,
mm.
my colleague. So he was like the brain, and he started calculating. We hadn't looked at that scale of programs, which are like PAN company, PAN Tata Motors type of program. And this was like touching all the dealers, and he came up with those numbers of the deployment team which will go out in the field and do the transformation individually at dealership after dealership. We looked at the timelines, we looked at the numbers, and finally he came up with a team size of, I think, something like 70 people. And we were like still some 5 6 years into the organization, never imagined that kind of a team. So we ran through the numbers again and again. We tried testing those, across different boundaries, etc. And didn't come up with a lower number. So we actually went back and asked for 70 people, and people again, dissected our math, and ultimately they realized that, okay, you know what, if you really don't want to make it a 5 year plan, then you got to give that kind of resources. And then we searched for a partner who could give us those kind of resources, and rest is history. I mean, all those 70 guys are
Yeah, yeah.
they are automotive experts in different companies now.
Yeah, I see. I fully agree. See, there are two important elements. See, uh, apart from one is like right resourcing and whatever is needed, infrastructure and all, and also the expectation management. Okay, see, I mean, when we start any major large programs or project, okay, the expectation, what is expected by various stakeholder and that intersection of that common goal, okay, that is very vital. Otherwise, what happens, like, you are doing a project in IT with some objective, and then management has some objective, and end user has some objective, and the implementation partner comes with his own objective. I mean, that creates a lot of chaos.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely right. Yeah. So, give us like some three, takeaways, three big takeaways from Project Harmony. I mean,
So,
what
see,
what what made it successful? But before that, I think just
mm,
for not assuming that everyone in the audience knows about Project Harmony, just give us some numbers around Project Harmony. How many companies, countries, etc., etc. Whatever KPIs you can think about that project.
so I think this project was in 2000, actually executed, started in 2009 August and went live in April 1st April 2010. The objective of this project was to harmonize all core processes across Mahindra and Mahindra Group. Now we are talking about a group. By that time, the group was running on six different SAP instances, which is separate ERP for each of the functions, right? And when you say M&M, Mahindra and Mahindra, it's a very diversified group. So they were 10 different industry verticals I'm talking about. So 10 different industry vertical. When I say vertical, Mahindra auto sector and farm equipment sector, Mahindra retail, Mahindra finance, all these are like, sector in themselves. Right? And then how do we kind of ensure that we bring all these six instance into kind of one consolidated instance? Okay. How do we harmonize the processes across the group? When I say number of big companies, so it was originally estimated for 40 companies in phase one. And when I say 40 means these are real 40 operating companies, no just accounting companies, right? And when we are talking about number of users, okay, so these were like, almost like we were covering 800 odd M&M locations. We were covering 26 odd countries. We were covering almost like in a range of 80,000 to 1 lakh users. Okay. And our implementation first, which started, let's and in our language, from Japan, that 24-hour needle, and ended in US. The last in that 24 hours was to go live was US, which we used to call Mahindra USA, which is Musa in the short form we used to call in those days, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And that was like, it was also, I think, from entire team we had a first time experiencing every 30 minutes we were in some time zone making their system live, because they are cutting that needle of 12 o'clock midnight and going live. And when we talk about systems like ESS, MSS, and HR, I mean, you can't say that user can't log in after go live, and that number itself as a group was pretty huge.
yeah. No, no, that's great. That's great. So, Harish bhai, let's move on to the next one. I think this Project Harmony kind of established you as like someone who can pull off the impossible, or like pull a rabbit out of the hat. And I think then you went on to rescue many large ERP programs. Just give us a couple of maybe 2 3 case studies, and I think through these case studies, what we want to understand is like what is it, what are those things that mess up these programs, what were the things, 2 or 3 things that were messing up these programs, and like what did and what were the things that you did to rescue them.
Yeah, so I think, I mean, I have rescued many large projects. One, if I have to name few, select, I mean, one is, for example, let's say Amul. Amul was again, they were GCMMF. It was a massive project run by one of the Tier 1 SI. And I was in Colombo. I got call from our SAP boss. And he said, like, where are you? I said, I'm in Colombo. He said, just go to Anand tomorrow. I said, sir, I'm in Colombo. He said, I don't care. 24 hours you have to be in Anand. And then I have to stay for, like, a good amount of time. But the thing was, like, it was completely stuck and it was not moving. And there was a cutoff date. And we were talking about making live almost 21 districts dairy, which was supplying like more than 1.5 to 2 crore liter of milk. You can just imagine. I mean, the milk is something which is a lifeline of the country, right? So every day morning, if even one day, one shift, if there is no milk, you can just imagine the kind of, like, intensity in the whole environment. So that was one similar mother dairy. And I also was part of NDPL, which is North Delhi Power, and they were supposed to go live, and that program was running for quite some time, got delayed multiple times, and lastly I was pulled in from somewhere to kind of handle this. And here the challenge was like, day one to 2.5 million, that is roughly 25 lakh consumer, has to go live with 25 plus years of history data with ditto to ditto paisa tally as an opening balance. Okay, so that kind of finish was required. Also was part of SCL, where, like, I again went to just see them for a day for some review, and then with no pair, no extra clothes and anything, and then I have to stay back for 9 months there. So these are the kind of marquee projects where somewhere I was like, pulled off. The biggest learning what I see in all these projects, I mean the large projects where there are issues and the escalations and all. The major thing was like, I think the process understanding, okay, gap, okay, and this is something which I always keep saying that see scope, technical words, jargon, interpretation, all this can people can interpret in their own way. But the most important thing is, do you understand the process and can you deliver end-to-end process? Okay, and this is the point where there is major make or break happens. Okay, uh, business wants some particular way of doing, you want to do it something in a different way, and then there's a gap. Second is the expectation management. Okay, yeah, and expectation, there are loosely used words. Somebody say we will automate all the processes. Now, what processes you will automate? Are you clear about that? And then business things, nothing to blame them. It's more of clarity. Okay, and this is what your topic also, clarity, right? So they want a click of button things to happen. Okay, but that click of button things to happen needs lot of logical derivations of many things, right? And system will always work with some logic, some sort of like behind the scene instruction. I always tell in a layman term, right? So those instruction, if you don't know how the automation will happen, right? So those are the things. So you have to man, and this expectation is right from junior to senior, I mean to the topmost guy. It cannot be like you just set the top bosses and the junior guy doesn't know anything, or junior you set him right and the top boss. It has to be across all stakeholders. And 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 the third thing is like uh, project team. When I say project team, it consists everybody, right? It's customer, SI, SAP, whomsoever, like OEM. You have to have a clear articulation of what you need, and you have to agree upon. And especially this infrastructure and resourcing is one of the thing where there is always a gap, and you just मतलब आप बोलते हो ना कान उल्टा पकड़ते हो, so you end up paying more at the end, and wherein
Yeah,
initially
yeah,
you
yeah.
want to just cut down, cut down, cut down, and but what and there is no shortcut to it. I mean, you have to do whatever you have to do it to make it successful.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think these are the three top things which I keep always in mind. I mean,
Yeah, and these are like, I think some of those very basics, because I think let me give a little bit of my, because completely aligned with my thinking. So the first one, I've asked this question to many of the IT folks, like, what is your core business? Like, what are you engaging in, right? Um, they say technology, but then we quickly realize that it's not technology. Technology is a technology company's job, not information technology department's job. And then it comes to like processes. But I think the first one, in terms of process understanding, the biggest problem that happens is that any technology that comes in will fundamentally change your process a little bit. And that's where you have to articulate as to what will change, what will not change, and what needs to change. Not necessarily that whatever you have been doing is efficient enough. And I think that requires a bit of articulation as well as negotiation skill. I'm sure
yeah,
you brought that to the table in navigating it. I think the second one, in terms of expectation management, yes, I mean, right now,
that's a
I
big topic actually.
oh yes, I mean, like, I'm personally experiencing it. I'm on the governance board of a large program, and and I really have to, like, uh, negotiate, or you can say, really water down a lot of expectations that people have. And these are like, there's nothing wrong with those expectations in terms of, like, where we will reach. But I think the road is like, the road to that goes through many intermediate stops. And what we have to tell people is that, we won't get there right in first go. There's no elevator to that state. It has to be
Very
like
true.
a
Yeah.
staircase, right? And so, like, I think in managing expectations, we also have to give some sort of a roadmap that what will happen first, then what will happen, and more importantly, what it will require from their side. Like, for example, people want the best of analytics, but for getting the best of analytics, you first have to make sure that every single data that gets entered in the system, is through the system, as well as is clean, and a lot of other ifs and buts. And I think finally, planning and resources. I think the third time we are discussing that the math and planning are so important. You cannot under plan, you cannot under resource, and if you do that, if you don't listen to the planners and to the project team, then you will end up seeing stretched timelines and a lot of those red flags around. Yeah. So, Harish bhai, we do have quite a few people in the audience. Let me just go back to the audience where I left off. So we have Aganathan Madhavan joining us from Abu Dhabi. Hey, thanks, Madhavan, for joining us. We have Udit Pahwa, another fellow CIO. Hey, thanks, Udit, for joining us. We have Sachin Kotasthane. Thanks, Sachin, for joining. He's an ex-Tata Motors colleague. And Harish bhai, if you find any of your colleagues or acquaintances, just say hi to them as well. So,
Yeah,
yeah, we have Kishore from TTL Thane. Thanks, Kishore, for joining. And we have our one of the most regular guys out there from Texas. I don't know
Texas.
how
Yeah,
this guy gets up on Saturday morning to attend this, but that really improves my admiration for you, Sats. Thanks for joining us. So I have the next one. I have is a question from Dattatray Phatnaik. He's asking, is it mandatory or how useful to have certifications like PMP, Prince 2, Scrum Master, etc., to be a successful project manager?
see, first of all, let me agree. I'm not a PMP certified guy. Okay, and I'm very candid about it. But yeah, I had so in SAP we used to have that ASA kind of a program. Okay, so this was some kind of certification. But I think the most important thing for any project manager is to understand the methodology in the whole madness and have to kind and strictly follow that. Right. So all this, whatever, I mean, whether we talk about Scrum, whether we talk about PMP, so there are fundamental principles, right? And for any project management, if you deviate from those fundamental principles, and all this largely talks about only one thing: how do you plan, monitor, and control? Okay, this is where the things lies. And to me, like whether you do ERP projects, whether you do any other IT projects or any projects, okay, these are the core principles for any project manager to success. And planning, I mean, I have worked with a lot of Japanese companies also. I mean, they take almost like a year to plan. Wherein in nothing against anyone, it's a mindset, but like here we say, like we plan to finish everything, we want to do it in 1 year, and that's the difference I see. But I mean, with all respect to the guys whom with I have worked in Germany, in Japan, okay, the amount of structure they bring in planning, okay, and then it becomes so easy to kind of visualize the whole thing and then put everything in place and then only start the project. I think that's the most important thing. It's not, according to me, it's not necessary to be a PMP certification and all. With all due respect, it always helped, but I think important thing is planning.
Yeah, I think it's a simple three-step formula that Harish bhai told: plan, monitor, control. And I think
Yeah,
most of your the only thing is that depending on the size of the program, the level of complexity in this will increase.
yeah,
And as they always say that a good doctor always spends far more time in diagnosis than in writing the medicines. Right? So I still remember,
absolutely.
once I went with a family member to, with some long history, and this doctor, and this was in Jaslok, very busy doctor. He calmly sat down and he took a fresh white sheet of paper, and he went back to the last, paper, and he started jotting down the entire, date wise, what were the major finding, recommendation, etc. And end of it, he looked at it, and he kind of like, then he absorbed it, that okay, how this whole thing has progressed in terms of diagnosis, in terms of medicines, in terms of, like whether it helped or not. And while everyone was recommending a surgery, he said you don't need a surgery. But the amount of time, I think 80% of the time during the visit, he was just absorbing data, and he was doing doing the diagnosis part of it. So planning, as you said, and there are other speakers on ClariTea Chat who have earlier mentioned this, that one of the great things to learn from people like Japanese or German people is the amount of time they spend in planning and tying all the knots at the planning stage, rather than doing the firefighting later. And I think that's a very important one. So, Harish Bhai, I have another question for you. This is from Seth from Texas. He says, every PM forgets in deadline that you cannot put 9 people and make a baby in a month. What early warning signs can we do, and what to do when we come to that situation?
So Seth, I'll give you two different examples. Okay. So one is like, this is, I can name the project also. There was a Sabarmati gas. Okay. We were competing with a lot of SIs, and we wanted to do this. It's a utility company. Okay. And we wanted to go live with SAP in 2 months. Okay. Now, utility company, and we did it successfully in 2 months. That also is an outcome. Okay. But what happens? See, we are mixing up two things. Your expectation of going live, is there any methodology which can help you to go live in 2 months? And we adopted some methodology where we actually did a agreement with one more utility company and did a copy paste of the client. Okay, actual client. And we took some innovative way, so that day one there is no BBP, there is nothing. You just change the company code and run the processes end to end, test it. We directly started a project with UAT. Okay, and it was accepted, and it went well. So I'm saying I'm not going to even 9 months. I'm saying it was possible in 2 months. Okay, and sometimes people says that, okay, let's say one large steel company, somebody came and said, I will do it in 10 months, and rest of the world is saying, we will do it in 18 months, and they assume a lot of things which was practically not possible. Okay, so something not possible, it all depends on, at the end, two important elements: the methodology you want to follow for that particular execution, and how well you have planned. Okay, so which means, like, planning and execution, you really understand the nut bolt of it? If you understand that, then the mechanics can be worked out. If you don't understand the depth of what you want to solve, and accordingly you don't plan, then there is a goof off only. Okay, this is how I look at the project. So 9 months, can you deliver a baby or not? I mean, honestly speaking, it is a case to case, and again an innovative approach, both on delivery side, as well as taking all stakeholders together, and you can work it out. And 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 again, it also depends on the culture. Okay, the culture of the organization is very important to accommodate and make all stakeholders align to the requirement. So that, I hope I answered your question. I mean, it's not for PM every time to kind of like, deliver in 9 months. There are prerequisites, there are assumptions, there are exclusions.
No,
You have to set
the
all right.
yeah, I think the takeaway that I have, Harish Bhai, is that there is absolutely no problem in throwing a timeline. The point is, like, you have to go deeper than just putting a timeline out there, and find out a logical and rational way to work it out, bring in, let's say, new methodology. For example, what you did, like, bringing in, let's say, a
Hmm.
template kind of methodology, right?
Yeah.
Aligning the stakeholders. You can't just throw it on the program manager that you have to deliver it in 2 months, and not align the stakeholders to that. Everyone has to then do. It's an enterprise program, so everyone has to then do things that require it to be delivered in 2 months. You have to bring in the cultural elements. So it's like, you have to think it through rather than just putting a timeline on the head of somebody, because it's not really a one person's job. It is,
All
it,
stakeholder together has to logically agree.
absolutely, they have to
Yeah.
agree, and they have to commit also, in terms of their
Yeah,
resources,
absolutely. Yeah,
time,
yeah.
etc., etc. So I have some words of praise for you from Dr. Shiv Narayan Kalia. So he says the speaker has excellent practical knowledge of the ERP implementation. Anyone who has been a part of ERP implementation will tell you this. So looks like you're a legend, Harish. Yeah. Then we have Dilip Gupta, we have Hemant Shah. Hey, thanks Dilip, thanks Hemant for joining us. And looks like Pradnya knows you. Hi Pradnya.
These are all teams whom I work with in various projects.
Absolutely. So she's asking, what is your mantra for your success?
Hmm. So, so I honestly speaking, I'm always a learner. Okay, so whatever comes to me, I take it. I always believe, like, you have to unlearn previous thing and take it this as a new topic, learn it, try to thresh the nitty-gritty, even even extra effort, extra hours required, pour in it, and then see, like, whether you can do justice to it or not. I mean, that's how I take it.
No, absolutely. And, I mean, Harish bhai, I know you. I mean, with whatever you have done, achieved, and all that, you still come across as a very humble human being. And I think that humility, is at the root of, like, being a learner, right? Being a learner, sorry, the other way around. Being a learner and saying that I still don't know a lot of things is brings the humility, and keeps you in an open-minded mode always. Um, uh, let's move on. Thanks, Pradnya, for your question. And now I have Manish Gupta. I am sure he's your friend as well. He's my friend. Hi, Manish. Thanks for posting that thought. It's quite important to have a detailed oriented mindset. I believe we have a great opportunity to improve in this area as a nation. It will help us in so many areas, including the project management practice. So he has a question for you. Please do share how can this aspect be improved? If you can share some of your experiences. So it's like,
Yeah, man.
Harish bhai, how do you, while you are like that, how do you make it like a cultural trait? How do you make people work like that, repeatedly and at scale?
So, see, I have one very unique observations. Okay, so I think the project management per se, per hierarchy, as like, a kind of a growth. So when I say growth, okay, so what we do right now is, like, that after certain years, salary fitment and plus many things, and he has to be a project manager, right? It's not something like that you can push person to become a project manager, first of all. Okay. Second is, what I see is, like, that project management also need lot of hands-on experience. Okay, and if you really have to be a successful project manager, and this is where, like, without understanding a domain, and I can give you one example. We are driving large, let's say we were driving large transformation project around finance, and the project manager was coming with a logistics background. Okay, it's completely mismatch of the domain and what you are trying to deliver, right? So my always request to everyone who assigns a project manager on a project has to first understand what is the need of the project. It is not just one project manager, you just name it. Okay? It's not a name you have to throw. You have to see the nitty-gritty of the project, domain understanding of the project, because it is not the 7 or 9 principle of the project management which somebody will go and apply and the project will work. No, there are a lot of unarticulated need of the project. Okay, and this unarticulated need will be always better. The guy who comes with that domain, with that kind of industry background, will understand those unarticulated need, and he will try to plug in those small things. And this is what the implementation partner or whomsoever is driving, even from the industry side. Okay, just don't assign somebody for the sake of like he's an extra in the department. Okay, just get a right person who have that mind, who has got a mindset of understanding technology and process together. Okay, who can bring value for you, and with
Absolutely.
a logical mindset. You just don't throw a name. That's my humble request to everybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, no, I think that has been very good discussion, around what it takes. I mean, this domain expertise is such an important thing that you cannot. Um, it's like you can't teach somebody 5 years of, let's say, 5 or 10 years of experience of working in that domain. Having gone through those various nuances of small details of the processes, you can't teach. And those are the things which eventually make a difference, whether those have been addressed, whether those nuances of processes have been addressed in your technology or not. And therefore having domain experience is absolutely a must. So Harish bhai, I think we are I didn't realize that so much time has passed in our audience Q&A. So let's move on to my next question. So, after having rescued these various SAP programs and all, you decided to go on the consulting side. Sorry, you decided to go on the completely different note of of innovation and the next practices. And also tell us about that transition, how it happened, going from a program manager to that and then to consulting role.
So, see, I mean, the transition was very simple. Like, by the time, like, if you start delivering a successful projects and being a rescuer, okay, the logical ask from everyone was like, to validate whether they are buying a right component of SAP, whether the program structure is right. So, I see it was more of a logical move, and taking one step above program management was to like be trusted advisor to the customer. Okay, see what are the learnings we can share with them in terms of doing a right buying, and the purpose of design thinking. And this was also something which was a new word. I'm talking about 2010 2012, sorry, 2011 2012. It was a new word that point in time, almost a decade now. Idea was to kind of figure out whether really customer wants this particular thing or not. So go a little bit deep, try to visualize and do this visualization with the help of the stakeholder themselves, like the persona, like that persona really what he needs. Okay, that articulation doesn't happen when you do a normal buying and selling and stuff like that. So design thinking was more designed to articulate the unarticulated need of the user, and that's where I was very keen. And not only for like selling an SAP product per se, but also for implementation or for like various business problems. Okay, how can you use those principles and bring that innovation? Because what the persona wants and what we deliver, I think that gap, design thinking was one of the best tool I came across which can easily fulfill that.
No,
So
absolutely,
that
absolutely.
was one of the things. Yeah. And then we started telling that as a next practice from the best practice. The next practice is like how do you articulate the unarticulated need and then deliver?
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that bringing out that latent needs and all, that can uh, that's not necessarily always driven from a headquarter point of view. That has to have like a mix of
Yeah.
stakeholders, and then you try to put the user in the center and run that entire process in such a way that it brings out like what is it that is really needed from an experience point of view rather than from like module point of view. you um, in fact,
Yeah.
I know you were working in the background when I conducted a design thinking workshop for Tata Motors senior management. I got to know it later that
Right, yeah.
Haresh Bhai was consulted on that. You never came in the foreground. It was Lucky and Deepak and all these guys.
We had a good team, so they delivered for
Absolutely,
Tata Motors.
absolutely. But that was like I think that particular session I would still put it as the inflection
Chakramani.
point where the senior guys like really I would say bought into digital transformation and then became the promoters and sponsors, and that was the whole intent of that exercise. That CIO or CEO cannot drive digital transformation. Every leader in the organization has to own it. So
Absolutely.
yeah, then let's quickly talk about then your move to consulting and then coming on your own and what you're doing now. What kind of
Yeah. So
exciting?
yeah, I mean 2015, then I said like, I have been on end user side, I have been on an OEM side. Then the missing piece was consulting. So I said like, let me do on a consulting side. So that's how I joined EY. And EY, it was like, reviving their whole SAP practice. So that was the task. And then I also got an opportunity to work very closely with the GST, the new regime coming in. And EY was one of the big four leading this whole initiative in the country. So, very good experience. And then 2019, 2020, me, Sunil, Salesh, again, we all three got together. We are old buddies of SAP. So we said we have enough of end user, we have like OEM, we have like, consulting. Now, why don't we become an entrepreneur? So we said like, we were thinking something, and then we were badly hit by COVID. I personally feel it was blessing for us in a sense that we got a timeout. And what we did was like, start thinking on like, what we should be building in an area where we have seen customers struggling. And that's where, and then also a lot of interaction by the time with a lot of authorities, where ease of doing business in India, and then the 5 trillion economy which came up. And then we said like, all dots are now getting connected. So it's time for us to kind of now bring in this a persona of importer and exporter. How do we make their life comfortable? And that's where we came up with the concept of 3 and this is the platform for importer and exporter which we have built in, which is more of like, we are thinking with an example of like, ERP was to kind of integrate all processes within the organization. Trajix is built with an intent to integrate all the processes with various stakeholders for importers and exporters. So we want to leave the game above ERP.
Yeah, no,
So how
absolutely.
all entire ecosystem can work together on a single platform.
Yeah, and I think that is a very very tricky problem because
Yeah.
I remember having given it a shot in terms of streamlining everything, and you have these various agents who get involved and all kinds of documentation that needs to be taken care of. We couldn't solve it, and that was one of my. I wouldn't say it was a failure, but we couldn't make it a complete success. So when you told of me about this agenda that you have, I think it's a
And
very very
yeah,
important
and
problem to address. Yeah.
absolutely. And the point, like, that why we are so confident on this journey, because if you really see, in last 3 to 5 years, all your compliances are getting digitized. All your statutory or so-called the government authorities, all the interactions are becoming digital, right? And 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 even to the B2B players or between corporates or between B2C also, the journey is becoming more digitized, and COVID has taught a lot of things on digitization. So I think if India is to really become a 5 trillion economy in shortest possible time, which is like we are talking about 2025 to 2026, I mean the manpower, the infrastructure, and everything is going to remain maybe same or maybe grow to 1.5x or 2x. But the 5 trillion is almost like you're saying five times, right? More than five times. So the digitalization is only a mechanism which is going to help, and I think this 5 trillion growth will only come when we get into more of like very much focus on export, because you have to search for a new market, you have to really sell your product globally, and you really have to bring in those qualitative and like last leg accuracy aspects. Okay, and this last leg accuracy aspect is the place where digitalization is going to be a major game changer.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, the right agenda, the right, I would say, uh, aligning to the right anchor out there, which is the digital India and the Make in India and the export agenda and all of that. So, thank you, Harish Bhai, and I think let's move on to the last part of our conversation, which is um, the rapid fire. So are you ready, Harish Bhai? Harish Bhai, can you hear me? Okay, looks like Harish got disconnected. He's actually in a offsite, and he, agreed to come online on ClariTea Chat during an offsite. So while we wait for him to join back, let me bring in some comments from some of you here. Uh, Manish saying, "Good to see and hear you, Harish." Hey, Harish, bhai, you're back. So
Yeah, sorry, there was some fluctuations. Hey, Manish, good to see you.
yeah, no, no. So what I started doing was like while waiting for you, I just started bringing in some comments from the from our audience. Then there is Hemen Shah saying, as per my view, 80% is planning, 20% is execution. Yeah, can make it 80
Agree,
20.
man. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And he says something that as we, one of the installer more than 15 years, and we always believe in experience project smoothness, 100% depends on project detail planning. So, I mean, not very clear, but yeah, I think I get the essence of it. What you're saying is that the project smoothness and success 100% depends on the detail planning. And yes, absolutely. More than anything else, when you're executing a new project, the devil is in the details, and so is success. The success is in the details, and if you miss out the details, you come across devil. Okay. So Harish bhai, now let's move to the rapid fire round here. Yeah, you did tell us that you cycle 25 kilometers a day for your cricket practice, but tell us more about your relationship with cricket and till when till what was the kind of pinnacle you reached there? What did you do in cricket?
So yeah, I mean, I was part of like from under 15, under 13 I started, under 15, under 17 university. So I mean, played almost 3 to 4 years university cricket, All India University, and went up to Ranji nets and all those stuff, and then finally, I have to give it up. Started playing for good clubs. We were some of the pioneers who started even the Reliance cricket team. Okay,
Oh,
so but then gradually, like technology took over cricket from me, like because again, it's it's like passion, right? So technology, before cricket, I was not so well versed with technology as an area, right? So, and then once I got into that, gradually it became a passion, and then
Yeah, looks like we again have a bit of connection problem on Harish's side. Yeah, so he has played Ranji, played university cricket, and then finally found a new passion to jump on, which is technology, cricket to technology, C to T. Harish, can you hear us? Looks like we again lost you. Okay, so let's wait for Harish to come back and for us to finish this session. But yeah, some good, really good takeaways, from here. I think the biggest one, biggest one is that you have to really believe in planning. You have to do your math. There's absolutely no alternative to crunching your numbers, and especially when you're, into technology programs and projects, the resources that you would require, not just from a human resources point of view, but also even, when I was talking to Harish Bhai, it was also very clear that even, from, let's say, hardware resources point of view, space point of view, we have to look at everything and then demand those resources. Otherwise, you are set up for failure. I call that as DFF. DFF is designed for failure. So design for failure is when you don't plan enough, and more importantly, when you don't ask for resources. And here you go back to one of our chats, where we talked about acid test for programs, and the acid test was: have you asked for enough money? Have you asked for enough resources? Have you asked for seating space? Have you asked for, the commitment in terms of, let's say, process changes, etc., etc.? And if you have not done that, if you have not done all these acid test, checklist of programs, then you are DFF. Then you are designed for failure. Um, I think the other thing, where we didn't really spend too much time, but was about that technology programs are not just about, ERP implementations, but move on beyond and bring out the latent needs of users. Use methodologies like design thinking to really bring out the latent needs. To all of you, who have not really dabbled in design thinking, it's a process of, like, getting everyone into a. There's a lot of importance of physical atmosphere. Create a kind of non-invasive or non-obtrusive space, and put a lot of props, whiteboards, etc., etc., and set up, environment in such a way that it promotes, open free thinking, and sharing of ideas. And then through certain processes and exercises, uh, get get people to really think widely, and then start, like, narrowing down on the ideas. So Harish bhai, while I was waiting for you, I was, sort of sharing a little bit
some
about the process of design thinking, in my limited, experience, whatever I have seen and whatever I have used. Okay, so we come back to the rapid fire. Um, yeah, so Harish bhai, tell us your early understanding of the story of the difference between shipping and shipping.
it's an interesting it's a very interesting story actually. When so we were implementing ERP system, and there was a headquarter said, like, you have to send somebody from shipping. And in our company, somebody decided shipping means, like, there was a shipping guys who used to move material in the ship from one location to another. So it's a vessel basically. So from that shipping department, couple of captains were sent for the ERP implementation, and then they realized that not shipping means not shipping. So we said like, the guys who work in warehouse who ship, I'm talking about 97, 98. And then there was a differentiator like, logistics and the shipping. These are two different departments. It's
Yeah,
an interesting
that
story.
was funny. So the captains of the ship arriving out there, and the discussion going on about logistics.
Yeah, and he says, "Boss, we have nothing to do with shipping. We are from shipping department only."
Absolutely, absolutely. Harish bhai, what is the importance of 13 in your life apart from?
13 is always my lucky number. I mean, I always used to wear a cricket jersey of 13. My college school roll number was always 13. And I have no regret in my life. I mean, everybody says unlucky, but I say it's most luckiest for me.
Awesome, awesome.
It's all
um,
in the mindset. I mean, I don't know. It's all
yeah.
mindset. Yeah.
So Harish bhai, I know this story can be very long, but if you can like quickly tell us, I in one of our previous interactions long back, you told us about a powerful case study in the smart city initiative, about accident reduction. So just
Yeah, yeah,
tell,
yeah.
how innovation and IoT and all these things come together to and in the smart city, just to give a glimpse of what smart city can do.
Yeah. So I think I represent Chamber of Commerce for Smart City of Surat. So I'm a chairman there. Uh, See, we were struggling with one problem of stray cattle coming on road, and that was one of the reason where we used to have a lot of accidents, right? And we were like the city municipal commissioners and all. We were discussing how do we ensure that there is some mechanism wherein as soon as the cattle comes on the road, we just get alert and we can immediately with some SLA like 3 minutes we should be able to catch that cattle, and then there should be a provision to penalize and all this stuff. So initially with this SVNIT and plus police commissioner has already installed a lot of camera, and this is the beauty of smart city, right? So there's a municipal commissioner, there's a police commissioner, they all have their own infrastructure. And this is where we came and said like, guys, we have camera there. We can capture the picture and the live streaming and then live video analytics can immediately tell you where the cattle is. And these all kettles in the whole of Gujarat are like, they are injected with some sort of identifier. Okay, so it's basically uh, some sort of small device is inserted, and with help of that, you can immediately know by a scanner, like, this cattle belongs to so and so. If the cattle comes third time, I mean, the cattle is seized, literally seized, which means it will not never go back to the owner. And this has really done wonders. I mean, so the accident ratio has drastically come down. I would say, like, there are some articles in the newspaper also which claims 80-90%, but I mean, it is more than that, and there are statistics available with the Surat Municipal Commissioner and stuff like that.
Awesome, awesome. So this is like,
Mm.
just by sharing your investment
Mm.
infrastructure and building in a knowledge layer on top of it, you were
Yeah.
able to reduce accident. I'm sure
Mm.
something like that can be done for our highways as well. So, just like one last question for you, Harish Bhai, which is, you have seen all sides. Okay, so in your view, what should CIOs do differently to become, true blue digital transformation leaders?
I have only one word to say, like, what is the value add to the process? I mean, if the CIO start focusing on, like, bridging those gaps of automation in the process, okay, that is where the larger value still you can unlock. And it's an immense, like, I mean, you take any department, okay, there are potential opportunities where the process optimization can happen. Only the language has to be changed. It's not of tech language, it is more of a business language. And if you start talking in a business language, talking about the optimization of process, I mean, how you can optimize the process. I think that's where your most of the stakeholder will buy you.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very simple and a very powerful answer to this question. Add value to the process. So that means you have to put your lenses of a process and learn the entire business process. I mean, just my 2 cents on that is that start walking around the business and start seeing for yourself, observing the people, observing the paperwork that flows around, observing the handoff between the various processes, and just by being on the floor, whether it's a shop floor or whether it's a dealership or whether it's your call center, just being there for about an hour itself can give you a loads of insights on what can you do to improve things. So Harish bhai, I'm at the end of it. If anyone in the audience has any rapid fire for Harish bhai, any kind of curiosity, please shoot. But in the
Yeah.
meanwhile, Harish bhai, any reverse question from you to me?
No, I mean, I just have like, same question to you also. Like, I keep seeing you always very active. Clarity is one of the platform, but there are so many other platforms. Jagdish is always very active. So, what keeps you going? Because I have to
uh,
learn so many things of like, you being so active and contributing everywhere. So,
yeah, so Harish bhai, I was always like this coach and mentor to my teams, and then for me, I always try to make myself redundant, and one way to do that was to pass on, whatever I've learned, just pass it on to my next level so that they can be on an autopilot mode. And that's how I built
yeah.
organization. That's how I have my team members who are, I really feel very happy when they reach those big roles and positions, um, to have like a little contribution in that. Of course, 95% of it is their own hard work in that. Now, I really found LinkedIn as a platform, where there's at least a big amount of segmentation in terms of what kind of people come on LinkedIn and they use LinkedIn. Of course, like any platform, there's always a bit of dilution, but I still find it very relevant. The kind of discussions, the kind of debates, when you share some thought or idea it generates, it just gives me it just gives a lot of adrenaline push. I'll give you an example. I think yesterday or day before, I posted a I thought it's a very simple post. It was just like sharing my view about playing to your strengths. Okay. So
Yeah.
many times people are trying to make up for their weakness. I don't know this. I will learn this. It's more like I know this, and let me become an expert in this. So I just posted, and I was really amazed by the response that a post got, because I just used an example in there. And then when those kind of things happen, you realize that something which comes very naturally to you may not come very naturally to other people. So therefore, just contribute. Whatever just share out there, and maybe you're just trying to make a difference, and try to make the world a better place. Lofty idea, but yeah, everyone makes a little bit contribution, like you are making now. I try to make it on a regular basis, and of course, I have got the time, with my uh,
Yeah.
freedom from a 9 to 5 now. But thanks for that question, Harish bhai. So we are sort of at the end of it. Thank you, all our audience, for attending and engaging. Thank you, all of you who are watching the recorded version. Please enjoy your weekend, enjoy the family time. And thank you, Harish bhai, for joining me on Clarity Chat today.
Yeah. Thanks everyone. Thanks Jagdish for inviting me, and sorry about some network interruptions in between, but I think Geo did the magic at the end. So thanks to mobile network which could make it possible at the end. Thank you
Absolutely,
all.
absolutely, absolutely. No, I think
Thank you. Bye bye.
we are sort of used to these kind of small disruptions, and thankfully we have a playbook to manage that. So thanks everyone. About the next week's Clarity Chat, we might take a break because I'm traveling to UK. Though I will not be like in a train or plane at that time. But we are still tentative. I'll try to connect, but let us see. You will hear from me as my plans freeze. Till then, goodbye and thank you once again, Harish Bhai.
Thank you. Bye bye. Have a nice
Bye
weekend.
bye.